Okay, here we go in 3, 2, 1.
Kelly, you've got Zinger, the wonder dog here that you're holding. What's that? How does that?
Well, we want to talk a little bit about dog
trauma?
safety today.
Oh, dog safety, okay.
Actually, he's showing a classic sign of something that I want to tell you about. If the dog's trying to get away from you, you shouldn't try to hold him because that's when people get bitten. And so we want to talk about a couple of things. And since I know Zinger pretty well and he's a good boy, little kids always want to put their face by people.
Ooh.
Dogs don't like that generally. They don't like to be stared at in the face. And if they're trying to get away from you, let them go.
Okay.
And let them go along their way.
See, Zinger, you get to go wherever you want today.
We've had numerous dog bites in the last, 2 weeks. We've had a real increase.
Really?
And some of these dogs are dogs that are known to people, like a neighbor's dog or a
Yeah.
friend's dog, and some of them are actually their own pet. But there's often signs that the dog is exhibiting, like Kelly was saying, the dog growling. And we teach our children how to be safe around dogs, because oftentimes they exhibit those signs, but if our kids don't realize that the dog's growling,
Yeah.
that's a bad sign, and they go ahead and want to kiss her anyways, they get bit.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that everybody's safe around all the dogs outside and things.
When a dog's eating, leave them alone.
Don't take their water bowl. Puppies,
Yeah.
if a dog has puppies, you don't want to try to reach in and grab the puppies.
Sure.
Their special toys, if they get tense and kind of stare at you around their toy, that means that they may be trying to play with you, but dogs don't play the same as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes they will snap and bite a child, especially in the face or in the hand, without meaning to harm them, but being
Sure.
able to hurt them.
Well, that's how they're speaking.
Exactly
Back off,
right.
stay away. I don't want you doing this.
Exactly right.
Pretty important not to wrestle with your puppies as young puppies, because then they think that rough housing is acceptable play, and then when your child or grandchild or neighbor's child comes over, they think that that's acceptable play to wrestle like that, and the dogs get overexcited and then they end up snapping. So
Sure.
really important.
Right. And we need to teach our kids how to approach a dog. We always ask mom and dad for permission to pet a dog. If this is a stranger or a friend's dog, we need to talk about how we don't pet a dog until we ask for permission. We let the dog smell our hand and then we pet them gently.
Right.
But if we don't have permission, we don't pet dogs.
Good thinking, because I'm thinking of different people when I walk the dogs over at Cooper Park or something like that. There's a lot of people I've talked with, they don't have children. Their dogs have never been around
Right.
children.
Yes.
And it's not that they're not a great animal, it's that they're just not used to it. So, I mean, it frightens the dog sometimes as much as it does the child. So
It
it's
does.
best.
A lot of small dogs are frightened by small kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that smaller person they're not used to. Or if they've had a bad experience with kids,
Sure.
they are frightened by kids. And we've seen a lot of kids being bit in the face. And,
Wow.
that's the scary thing.
Sure.
When our kids get bit in the face and things, then
Sure.
we've even had some severe dog bites recently.
Yeah,
so
we're talking
and it's in the
reconstructive
news.
surgery and everything else,
Yes.
plus the terror.
Yes.
Well, and this is a little controversial, and we're not going to name any breeds. However, if you're going to have children around a pet, you need to investigate very carefully which breeds are traditionally good with children. Some breeds just aren't as good with children, and that can range everywhere from the types of bulldogs, like the pit bulls, all the way to actually collies a lot of times aren't necessarily
Right.
the best.
Right.
So-
they're high energy
cockers,
and they're
yes.
working dogs and they don't like to be interrupted.
And the little dogs are more of the snappers and nippers too.
Yeah.
Also, but the difference is they can't do damage a lot of times with
Right.
that the other ones
They
can.
get your ankles. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but
the
they don't have the
Chihuahuas.
strong jaw strength, so
Sure.
the damage is the bigger dogs. But it's just really important that you train your dog well. And if you have a breed that you know that may not be acceptable on children, just put them away when the children are there.
So that's great advice. Yeah, just keep them separated.
Yes.
So for the dog's sake, certainly as much as the child's. So,
Right. We don't want to see our dog get in trouble or to hurt anyone either.
Right.
So
Right.
just for everybody's sake, if you put your dog away, if it's not used to company and things, until they're used to company, or after the initial, someone is at the door and things like that, the dog calms down, and then you can bring the dog into the room later when you're holding the dog in a more controlled situation. That will help the dog accept visitors.
Sure.
And just because your dog is good with your children doesn't mean they'll be good with someone else's children, because they may perceive that the other child is hurting your child and go to protect them.
Yep.
Because that's in their nature.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's their kids.
exactly.
Yes.
Leave my
Exactly.
kids alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they say on the dog bite websites and all the ASPCA and all those places that talk about being careful with bites, that if you're out and a strange dog approaches you, you should stand as still as possible and not move. Don't run, because that encourages that chase complex. And they do say that they'll eventually get bored most of the time and stop. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't attack necessarily, but generally that's if you stand really still and don't run.
Don't make eye contact.
Right. And
Yes.
so they don't feel threatened.
Yes.
Yeah, that you're not challenging them in any way.
Threatening them.
The other thing is too is kind of along the same lines is anyone that has a dog, cat, but we're talking dogs today, make sure that your kids understand how to pet an animal, how to treat an animal. You know, that they're not your stuffed animal, that they're really there and they have feelings, they can get hurt, and you know, don't be grabbing them.
Don't grab and pull hair.
Right.
Sometimes if you're pulling a tail or if you're pulling hair,
Yeah.
that's when a dog or a cat will want to
Sure.
bite you.
That's all they've got. I mean, that's their defense
Yes.
mechanism. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And if you're a child or somebody else does get bitten, you probably need to come and let it get cleaned out good, and you may need antibiotics for that. And it's really important to make sure that wound's cared for well if you already have gotten to a bite. And the other thing is make sure your dogs and pets are immunized.
Right.
So that you're up to date. You know, in our area we have a lot of skunks and squirrels and bats and things like that we can, spread rabies.
Rabies. Keep those
You want
rabies
to protect your
vaccines.
animals too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all of our dog bites and animal bites, we do report to the health department so they can track those things and make sure that that is a healthy animal that has bit you and just an accident, things like that, not a sick animal
Yeah.
that they need to follow up on for rabies and things.
Yeah.
And we've had an incident here, as Mandy said, we've had an increase, but also nationally there's been an increase in dog
Really?
bite. And I didn't know this until we
Yes.
started looking up statistics. About 4.5 million people a year are bitten by dogs.
Oh my goodness.
And of course, children are the highest incident, and that makes sense because they're small and they tend to do things, I think, that maybe make movements or get the dog bowl or
Startle
pull an
them or
ear or
something.
something, startle them. And then the next is young men, which they didn't explain that statistic. And then, of course, the third one is people that have dogs in the family, which that only makes sense that, something would happen that you would startle your dog, or you might be breaking up a fight with other dogs or something like that and
Right.
get bitten.
Yeah. Yeah. And get bit by accident even by your own dog.
But a
Yeah.
huge number of dog bites
Yeah, you would
in
not
just in the
think.
United States. So,
Oh, God,
yeah.
that's an enormous number.
Mhm.
But I think there's a huge increase in dogs to begin with as pets.
You're exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
I
And I
think-
think with it being summertime, that's why we've had an increase. We're outside with our animals, we're outside with other people's animals. And I think that's why we've seen a big
Yeah.
increase in dog bites. Just the last 2 weeks, we've had
My
maybe
goodness.
10.
Yeah. Wow.
So
What's
really,
severe?
really
Yeah.
investigate your breed. Really investigate if you go to like the animal shelter to adopt them, then make sure you spend some time with them there. They usually know the dogs because they've been there for a little bit, a lot of times, and they can help you make a decision on how the dog is with other people a lot of times. If you buy a purebred or something like that, make sure that you go visit the breeder. Make sure you see the parents and how they interact with the parents and things
Right.
like that. Really important to make sure that you have a calm, well-natured child. And then all of the pet companies, Pt.2 and All Pet and all of them have training sessions for your dogs.
Great. Yeah.
So you can teach them, to not have food aggression and to, do some basic skills, which will help prevent dog bites too.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I know with my own, I made sure that, you can take a bone away from them and nothing happens, nobody growls, it's all okay. But that was a lot of time and energy that went into them, so.
It is. It takes a long time
yeah.
to get your dog
Yeah.
trained.
I don't know if anyone broke into the house that they would get anything but licked to death, but,
I have a bulldog,
They're
and
pretty-
she would
yeah,
lay there and
yeah.
watch them
What-
take
yeah,
the stuff.
yeah,
as,
That's really nice. Mom didn't like that lamp anyway,
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Or TV, yeah.
Well, we have a Maltese, and she was a year old when we had our baby. And of course, my daughter's 6 now, but with that Maltese, they've kind of grown up together. That dog will ride in a shopping cart or in a bassinet and a stroller, and my daughter will tote that dog all over the house, and that dog just sits there. So it's a lot about how that dog is raised, and
Sure.
the breed of dog. She is just as gentle as can be with all of the dress up and things that we do to our dog in our house.
And I know, Kelly, yours has a few outfits that.
yeah. Yes. A little pitch for something else from the hospital here. My dog Carly, you'll see her in the Pause for Cause calendar. She's quite beautiful, and she's either going to be a September or October, I believe. And so support the Pites Cancer House with the Pause for Cause calendar. It's a great way to give back to your community, and with some adorable dogs in it, especially Carly.
Thank you for that plug. We will have Regina Ellis from the Pikes Cancer Support House
Yes.
on just before the calendars go on sale. So
Those
we'll
tr-
be sure that you know about that as well.
Those traditionally come out in like November, right? For like starting to.
For usually we try and get them out even
Even
sooner.
sooner?
Probably this year. They make wonderful holiday gifts. They're
Yes.
inexpensive, and everybody needs a calendar. And of course, this supports the Pikes Cancer Support House, so it's a win-win for everybody on this one.
My real daughter, Chrissy, went to go vote for Carly and said, "I am here to vote for my sister." I guess we know what everybody's getting for Christmas this year. So.
Of course.
You too will be getting a calendar.
Exactly.
We'll all have calendars.
What else besides dog bites is going on that you're seeing at the?
Well, of course, we're seeing
Trauma.
an increase in motorcycle accidents
Yeah.
and car accidents. That goes along with the summertime, right? This year in the state of Arkansas, we've seen an increase in deaths, motorcycle deaths. Last year, for the whole year, we had 25 deaths, motorcycle fatalities. This year, to date, we've had 38 motorcycle
my goodness.
deaths. And
Statewide.
that-
Yeah.
Statewide. That is
Yeah.
a really big increase.
It
That's
sure
kind of
is.
frightening. So we just want to remind everyone to wear their
Helmets.
and stay safe.
Right. We're going to talk about this right after we come back from a break. Don't go away. We'll talk to the trauma girls as soon as we get back.
Are we going to talk about